Hey everyone, welcome back to Beyond Broken Hungry. I'm your host, Dara Carlisle, and I'm so grateful you're here. So this week I am actually traveling, and while I'm out, I still wanted to make sure I was showing up for you with something meaningful and helpful. So I'm bringing back a replay from the archives. We're talking way back in the day when I first started this podcast. This episode was originally recorded back in 2020 with our former host, Ellen Hogan, and two incredible financial advisors, Mel and Steve from Oasis Wealth Planning in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, I get it. It's a few years old and some references might take you back a little bit. Honestly, the financial advice in this conversation hits different in today's economy. We're talking budgeting for creatives, building an emergency fund, navigating credit, the FIRE movement, and so much more. I truly believe this is one of those episodes that is worth revisiting. And if you're a newer listener, this might be your first time hearing it. So I hope it brings you some clarity, some calm, and maybe even a little bit of motivation. I also want to apologize in advance for any of the cheesy, lame jokes I make during this episode. This was 6 years ago, y'all. So please just be mindful. I have grown so much as far as interview skills go, but maybe it'll give you a little bit of giggles as well as financial motivation. So thank you for your patience, your support, and always rocking with me. Now let's get into it. Life can feel like a constant balancing act. Career, relationships, health, finance, faith, and somewhere in the middle of all of that, trying to pursue the dreams God placed on your heart. That's what Beyond Broken Hungry is all about. Here, we talk about real-life wellness, not perfection, not extremes, but the everyday habits, mindset shifts, and faith that help us build strong, meaningful lives. Sometimes I'll be sharing conversations with wellness experts. Sometimes it will be just me reflecting on what I'm learning as a wife, entrepreneur, a woman of God, and someone trying to live well in every area of life. If you're figuring things out as you go, you're in the right place. Healthy living, real faith, full life. Welcome to Beyond Broken Hungry. Dara and Ellen here with Mel and Steve from Oasis Wealth Planning. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to speak with us and be on our podcast, Beyond Broken Hungry. We're excited about it. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, we are too. This is really a great idea. Let's go.
Awesome. To kick this off, we want to know what's the weirdest thing that happened to you this week?
Oh gosh, the weirdest thing this week. So I live in a condo building downtown, and the unit above me and over one had a leaky hot water heater. And so there's like 3 or 4 of our units that all got water in them. So in the midst of all of my New Year's and trips to see families, I'm getting phone calls about, we need to get in your unit and there might be water on the carpet and all that stuff. So that's probably the weirdest thing.
Oh my goodness.
Steve, you got anything weird that happened to you?
Not that I can think of. I'm a big Hoosier basketball fan, so did go up to see Bobby Knight and the Hoosiers went to see the Hoosiers play this past weekend, and Bobby Knight was supposed to show up and make his grand appearance. He hasn't been to Indiana for quite a while. He didn't show up, so we were all disappointed. So I drove 4 hours up to Bloomington to see a coach that did not end up showing up. So that was frustrating. It wasn't weird so much, but frustrating.
Hey, it was out of what you had expected. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. So we'll go ahead and get down to the nitty gritty of it. So tell us how you got into financial planning.
Could you also introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your company to start off?
Sure. Okay. So we're Oasis Wealth Planning, and we provide personal financial planning services, tax planning services, and investment management services to individuals and families. Steve's been in the business a little over 20 years, me over 30 years, and we met each other about 5 or 6 years ago working in another firm. And along the way, decided we had a lot in common. We made a good team, and we started working on our business plan. So we've been doing this, a little over 3 years, I guess. How did I get into financial planning? Well, for me, it started in college. My dad passed away when I was in college. So my mom, my dad was an accountant, so when he passed away, my mom couldn't even balance a checkbook. And so if she hadn't had me and my two sisters and then a guy who worked with my dad who had extra time to help her, I mean, she would have been totally lost. So I immediately saw the need for people in general, but especially widows, to have help. And so I think that really kind of turned me, because I went from, I got a degree in accounting, but I did not sit for the CPA exam. I did not go down the road of public accounting. My first job out of college was with a financial planning firm. Steve?
Yeah, mine wasn't as dramatic as to why I got into the business. I'm probably one of those odd people who liked accounting and taxes as a young kid. My dad got me into saving to an IRA early on. They didn't have Roth IRAs at that time back in the day, but I was interested in the impact of compounding growth on your returns. I did my taxes at a young age when I had my own lawn mowing business, so I just really liked the business and the analytical nature of this field, and just gradually took more and more classes, finance and investments and some law, and it all kind of came together a few years ago.
That's awesome. Yeah, numbers. So you guys are good at numbers.
Yeah, numbers and lots of detail.
You would have done my math homework. I would have done your English papers.
Yes.
It would have been
great. Perfect.
So doing a little bit of research back in before coming in here, we saw on the website that, Steve, you were involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters. That was an organization that I volunteered with a lot when I was in high school and college. Just really liked hanging out with the kids and like talking with them and stuff. What was your experience like being involved with them?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I was a Big Brother a couple of different times, but most recently, it's been a while, and I think you're from Jacksonville originally, did I see?
Yes, sir.
So actually, my little brother was from Jacksonville, grew up in that area, so was a Big Brother with him for about 5 years, and it impacts the big brother, right, or the big sister as much as it does the little, as we say. And, I saw growth in him, and hopefully he saw growth in me, and we just played off of each other, and hopefully I was a mentor to him and saw him grow, and it's pretty neat. Good timing on the question. This is, fast forward 10 years. He was always a good student, but kind of came from a single parent household and had some challenges, overcame those challenges, and it's incredible story and it's really all him and a godparent and then his mother and a lot of other people that had a big role. But he's about to graduate from the Naval Academy. It's rare that someone from Duval County, the county where Jacksonville is, that goes on to the Naval Academy. So it's a pretty neat story. So I like to think that I played a very small role, but it's just that organization, as you know, Dara, is just incredible.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Impacts bigs and littles alike.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure your impact on his life was not small. I'm sure it was very huge.
Thank you. Yeah, sometimes we don't see it, right? But, yeah, over the long term, you can probably look back and see, the impact that you do make.
That's awesome. Awesome. And, Mel, you're an Alabama grad? Alabama
Roll Tide. Well, no, not a Bama grad, but I went to a college with no football team. So both my mom and my dad grew up as Bama fans. My dad went to Bama. So, yeah, it's just in the blood, I guess.
So how did you feel about LSU playing you guys?
Of course, it's always hard to lose to LSU. It's kind of like losing to your cousin. And but now that they're in the game tonight against Clemson, you got to pull for the SEC. So,
of course, SEC always.
So go Tigers. And I grew up down on the Gulf Coast in Mobile, Alabama, and Mobile was founded by the French all the way over to Louisiana. So there's this kind of natural connection to New Orleans and Louisiana. So love Cajun food, and I'll just say, pulling for LSU tonight.
There you go.
So we have that half of the table that's on the SEC side, and we're over here on the Big Ten side. Because I'm from Michigan originally, so I'm a Michigan fan. Despite my wearing green today, go blue. She's wearing purple for LSU.
Well, we won't talk about the Alabama-Michigan game a few days ago then.
It is what it is.
Bama's too good. They're too good. They're just too good. It's like almost like if you see a game where Alabama loses, you're almost like, wait, there's something going on. There's something going on. Something weird in the air.
Yeah, but Coach O at LSU, such an inspiration, and all of us should look at him and his pathway to getting to be a coach and having success there and go, I want to do that,
Absolutely. Absolutely. He does a lot for the community too.
So how did each of you two wind up in Nashville? What brought you here?
For me, I came here to get my master's at Vanderbilt, and I felt like, and that was like 25 years ago, but I felt like Nashville was a big enough city that I could find good work here. My kids and their spouses could eventually find good work here and kind of make it home base for the family. So here I am. I'm still here.
And like a lot of people that end up moving to Nashville, I had a sibling. A lot of times you have a relative here and you visit, you're like, oh, that's a much better place than where I'm living now. So I've been trying to get to Nashville for quite a while. Did try and eventually was able to move up here with my predecessor firm and stayed here ever since 2012. But yeah, I just like obviously the people in Nashville, a great community. Even though I'm not artistic whatsoever, unlike most of your listeners, that attracted to me. I didn't want to be around people that just worked on spreadsheets all day like myself, so that attracted me. But yeah, just in climate-wise, it's a good mix between the South and the Midwest. I think it's just perfect in that regard.
Yeah, I do love that about Nashville too, because going deep into the South feels like a lot for me being from the Midwest. Everybody's a little bit slower, and here it still has a little bit of the city culture, so it's in between. But wanted to ask you guys, what are some of the biggest tips that you have for our listeners, especially for people who are, working a side hustle, working multiple jobs just so that they can pursue a creative project, or, going through unpaid internships just to get one step closer to their dream. How do you think they should start with balancing their finances and finding financial wellness? What are some of your biggest tips?
Yeah, so I would say, first of all, it's important to recognize that your income is going to be lumpy, right? So if it's, gigs or weddings you're photographing or whatever you're doing, your income's going to be lumpy. And so it's important then to know kind of what's your minimum baseline that you need to get by on. And that is bare bones, and everybody has their own definition of that. I mean, we can talk more about that if you like. But if you recognize sort of, this is my baseline, I got to have this much just to eat something. So recognizing that your income is lumpy and picking this baseline, then when you get some extra income above that, you can now say, you now recognize it, right? Oh, I've got an extra $100 this week, $250 this week, whatever the number is. And think about where that extra money needs to go. And don't automatically consume that, right? It's easy to say, oh, I got extra $250, I can take a trip this weekend, or, I'm going to go eat, burgers. I haven't had good burgers in months, But think then about where that extra money needs to go. Now, an important part of that is having a budget. If you could almost say you needed different levels of a budget, right? I need my baseline budget, and then I need to know where the extra money is going to go when it shows up, before it shows up. So you don't do an impulse, whatever.
Right. What are some of the recommendations you have to do when you have that extra income above your minimum, your standard baseline? What do you kind of recommend as the first few things? Do you recommend saving, investing, paying off debt? What do you think is most important?
Well, the whole saving versus pay off debt question, it can be really kind of a customized thing, a personal thing. Obviously, if you need to be paying off your debt and you haven't been able to, and they're knocking on your door, then maybe you need to be putting some money toward paying off your debt. If you're investing for near-term goals, say, I don't know, you need a car in a couple of years or something, then obviously you need to set aside enough money to hit that goal, but you're not going to earn much on that money because it's probably going to sit in a money market account or a savings account, not make a lot of money. If you have extra above that saving goal, maybe that's paying off debt, because if your interest on your debt is over 6%, then paying that off is like earning 6% on your money. So that can that whole comparison. Oh, maybe I can make more if I invest. Not if you're investing for a near-term goal, because that money needs to sit and be safe. You don't take money you need in 2 or 3 years and put it in the stock market.
Yeah, I was going to say, too, in addition to that, talking about baseline and some of the basics of getting started, or even those that are starting a new venture later in life, is an emergency fund, right? We read about that, and those in the creative industry that are really looking to start new ventures, emergency fund is especially critical. And a lot of times you hear about the rule of thumb to have 3 to 6 months of living expenses, right? Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the right number. Just like Mel said, the budgeting and some of those other items are individualized. So is the emergency fund. I would say for those that are, to give yourself financial peace of mind and being willing to maybe take bigger risk or bigger ventures that you may not otherwise, having that, maybe it's a 12-month emergency fund. Do whatever you can to get a rock-solid emergency fund so that you can take some bigger risk without having to worry about it. If you're worrying about financial issues, you're not going to be probably as creative and not willing to take as much risk as you otherwise were. So I think that baseline emergency fund is absolutely critical early on.
You want to talk about budgeting apps?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
absolutely. What are your favorites and easiest? And
Well, it kind of depends on what you're comfortable with. Some budget apps are like kind of attached to your bank, and it can make it really easy to budget using those apps. So if that's available to you, maybe you start out doing that. Don't think about getting the perfect budgeting app right out front, okay? So just find something maybe some friends are using, or like I said, it's attached to your bank already or attached to a credit card you're using, and use those. And try it out for, say, 3 months. Get your budget put together. And I would say really at least every 3 months, you ought to be going back and looking at your budget. How am I doing? Do I need to adjust this category, adjust that category? Do I need to pick a different app? Moving from one app to another can be a pain, but it can be part of the learning process of, hey, this other app, I know more what app number 2 should be doing for me, so I'm going to do a better job picking that app. Some apps are free. Some have kind of a subscription fee attached to them, and you may say, man, I don't want to spend any money on that. But if like YNAB, you need a budget. If you want to pay for that because the app works for you, then shoot, that might be money well spent. It's important to get a support group, and a lot of the apps have their own like Facebook groups and online people, groups of people who are going to make comments, suggest things to each other, or pose questions and get quick answers from those who've dealt with the same thing you're dealing with. So a budgeting app is not just what you're doing with it, but what the kind of support you can get from others. And that's really good, because now you got yourself surrounded at least a little bit with some other people who are trying to budget and make their money go a long way. You might be hanging out with people who aren't necessarily budgeting very well, and they're like, hey, we're going to go drink our extra money away tonight or something. But getting yourself surrounded with a support group through the app that you're using can be really important.
Definitely. So as far as the actual budget goes, what is your biggest recommendation for when your friends are going out and spending money? How do you not just be that friend who's just sitting at home all the time and being really boring and not having fun? How do you balance that? What would you recommend?
So if you've got your goal set, and this relates to your career, right? I mean, if you're developing yourself professionally, you're trying to hit some certain milestones, accomplish certain things, then you ought to have those goals written down. And like, I think a good thing to do is like put them in the notes, in your phone that connects with your computer or whatever. So wherever you are, you can pull those up and look at those 6, 7 goals and say, hey, this is what I'm about. And then, if you need to hang out with those friends, go hang out with them. just every time they're buying a new drink, their second, third drink, I don't know, get one drink and nurse it all night or something.
Get really good at flirting.
There you go.
But yeah, that way your drinks are bought for you.
That's something I would not have thought of. So
There you go. I'm also the queen of a soda water with lime, so it looks like you're drinking and people won't bother you about it.
That's right.
It's not like just holding a water. That's a good trick that I highly recommend. But Dara is more successful than a lot of us would be at the flirting thing.
Sure. Well, you got to play to your strengths, right, Dara?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And you could get a splash of cranberry juice put in your soda water.
There you go. Exactly.
Whatever. But no, it's a great idea, and I've done that too. But I think that just like you need that support group around you, maybe around your budgeting app, when your friends are going out, you need to stop and go, wait a minute, my money is precious and I've got some things I'm trying to do with this.
Right.
But I'm still going to go out and be sociable and all that.
Absolutely. So as far as budgeting personally, for, just general savings, your student loans, maybe a trip you want to go on, maybe saving for a house or a car, how do you recommend people who are in their 20s who really don't have as much money as they would like, to how much do you think they should be budgeting for business goals? If they want to start a website for a project that they're working on, or invest in going to a conference that they think would really help them. A lot of these things have upfront costs, and it's hard to know how much that would be. So what are your thoughts and recommendations on that?
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts. First of all, let's talk about accounts. You probably have your main checking account. You can attach it to a savings account. And maybe in that savings account, you've got your emergency fund, Steve, like you were talking about. But if you need a third account to help sock away some of that money, open that up somewhere. If you have to go to another bank and put that account so it's a little harder to reach, do that. Make that money that's set aside for those goals hard for you to spend. So once that money's set aside, it's going to stay there. I think, as we were talking about earlier, kind of have your baseline budget, and maybe you have a little budget above that, which is just beyond broken hungry. Just a little bit, just a bit. And then beyond that, you can say, well, that money needs to go toward a goal. And you could say, well, I'm bringing in, over the last couple of months, I've brought in an extra this amount, and figure out where that needs to go, right? Maybe it's a new camera you need, or maybe it's, some new equipment or a new guitar or something, whatever that is that you need, or it's a conference or something, write down what that is, kind of look at what you've been bringing in extra and see if you can get to that goal in the near term or not. And then have that separate account where you can say that money is for that goal, or maybe it's for 2 or 3 goals, but make it hard to spend that money and put your extra money over there out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have a question for somebody who is fortunate in the sense that I just kind of got a little bit of a leg up in the industry. I do now have a job that I'm getting paid a salary. I have benefits. I actually opened up a life insurance policy last year that I've been working towards and paying every month for about a year now. So once you finally get to that next step where you're there, you've got the salary, you've got the income that you can control. What then is a good step in whichever, whether it's, like saving 10% of your paycheck, or, what do you recommend in that regard once you get there?
Yeah, good point. So it sounds like you had some goals, right? So that with that extra money was coming in, you kind of had some things that you'd already thought about. You wanted to spend that money or save that money. Mm-hmm. So that's important. If you're talking about percent of salary, or percent of income, that ought to go toward retirement savings. I think the bare minimum is probably 10%. And Steve, what do you think? More like 15 or something?
Yeah, it really comes down, again, that's individualized, right? What are, and many of those many of those in the creative industry really don't have plans to retire, right? They're so passionate about what they do, so it's hard to say, I want to retire at age 50 or age 55. We're seeing that more and more amongst those in your generation, right? That FIRE movement, but many don't, but it is individualized. When do you want to retire? Use an online calculator to figure out, or use a financial advisor or someone to figure out how much you need to be saving, knowing that there's going to be hiccups along the way, right? If you have that first salary, don't always assume it's going to grow by 10% a year, or don't assume that you're going to have that same job for the rest of your life. There's going to be hiccups, so we always recommend saving more than what the pure math suggests, right? Because things do get in the way, extra expenses get in the way, health gets in the way, etc.
Right. I do actually have another question for you, Steve, about so a lot of our listeners may not know what FIRE is. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with the movement, but what does the acronym stand for? Early retirement, basically. I don't know what the financially independent retire early. I don't know if that's right.
That sounds right.
I just made that up, but we'll go with that.
Seems legit.
Yeah, but even if one's not a total adherent to that movement or a follower of that movement, I think there's always some good things to take away from it. But the idea is that really take responsibility for your own life, right? For your own finances, and that's what your podcast is all about, really, right? And that's what many podcasts are about. It could be saving a little bit more aggressively, which means you're probably reducing your spending in a pretty extreme fashion in some cases if you want to retire at 50. Because if someone was going to retire at 65 and they started saving in their early 20s, 10 to 15% will probably do it. 10% might even do it if you don't have a huge spending amount in your retirement years. But if you want to retire at 50, that's probably a 25, 30, 35% annual savings amount. So that's vastly different. So when one wants to retire much earlier, that has an impact on what you want to save. But that does kind of force you to look at your spending, and kind of the minimalism movement. I think that's somewhat tied to it. Is that accurate? That you really look at what you're spending on. Is it something that you value, and what can you really cut pretty significantly to meet those early retirement goals?
Right. Yeah. I've actually researched it a lot because I think it's super fascinating. Because I've heard of people trying to retire by say 35, and they're starting saving at 20, and to them it just means living in their parents' basement and having no bills and just cutting out literally everything that they can to potentially retire earlier. But one thing I do think is interesting about it that would make it really difficult, and you're always assuming that you'll make it to that end point. In that kind of situation where it's, I'm cutting out everything and all the fun in my life and anything that I could enjoy so that eventually I can hit this mark. So how do you find the balance between, cutting out everything so that you can save your money and still enjoying your life, kind of like we were discussing earlier?
So you're talking about enjoying your life now.
Right. Enjoying your life now as well as later.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that you'll be able to have both if you don't have a very high income?
Yeah. Well, I think that's always the question, right? I don't think there's a pure answer to that. It is very important, though. Let's put it this way. The bigger problem would be I'm not saving enough, or I'm spending too much, rather than, oh no, I've saved too much. Right.
I am that weirdo that will save too much and have no fun sometimes.
Well, you're not alone, and I know everybody has their story about retiring early, but we've got some clients who retired in their early 50s, and we're like, they're like, do we have enough money? And the answer to that is, well, it depends on how much you're going to spend in retirement.
Right.
So they moved to Mexico and they're living on less than half of what they would be spending in the U.S. So there are ways to get it done. But I would say that one concept in this, and maybe this relates to, Dara, some things you were saying, that as more money is coming in, you need to be thinking about the fact that may not last, right? Think about an artist who has, a couple of really big hits, and I don't know, there's no guarantee. Think about a professional athlete who, may have the average career in the NFL. I don't know what the number is, 5 years or something. But, so I'm making all this money, but it's not going to keep coming in at this level. So do they need to be saving 10% of their income? No, they might need to be saving 60 or 70% of their income or more. Right. So if you get a really big hit, more money's coming in, it might be time to really stockpile that. We've had one client who said, "Hey, I'm getting all this money every month now from my music. I'm thinking about paying off a house, so that if this money goes away, at least I've got this house." So that can be part of a way to set aside money. Now, and there's so many other ways, but when that money comes in a big way, you need to think about not just raising your standard of living, but how many years at my current standard of living can I fund with what I have saved?
Absolutely.
Maybe that's a number to calculate.
One thing, my financial, it's been all over the place. I mean, I worked 100% commission for 2 years out of college, working for a radio station. So I almost could not predict. And I was working all the time, because if I'm not working, that means that there's no sales coming in or there's nothing going on. So it was very big relief to finally be in a position where I had a salary and I was able to have more control and have a little bit of ease and lower my anxiety on what was coming in and going out. And one thing that I did was I didn't change my budget from when I was having to hustle all that. So now there's obviously a few $100 extra coming in every month, and I'm just ignoring that money almost and kind of just pretending that I'm still only making my scrape the bottom of my bank account money to pay my bills. So now when I do look at my bank account, I'm not like, oh my God, I'm negative $37. Now I'm looking at it like, oh cool, all right, we'll get paid on Friday and I still have money in the bank. It's nice. So that's one thing that I've been trying to work on, and I feel like when you get a raise, that doesn't mean change how you spend your money. That means, okay, maybe if you want to go on a more spontaneous trip, you can, because you've got that, but stay within your space, and then you'll be able to save more money.
Yeah, no, that's spot on, and that's kind of what we're talking about. Like, I've got this bare minimum budget. Maybe I have a slightly nicer budget above that, and then you get this big income, and you're setting it aside. But that gives you the freedom to take on new projects and new ideas as they come to you.
Right, and also as everyone was saying, just the concept of lifestyle inflation will ensure that you will never hit the savings goals that you want to reach if you're just making that difference go straight into, oh well, I'm just going to pay for convenience now because I can afford it, and having that wisdom to slow down and say, okay, well, let's just save this money and put it towards these exciting new ventures I want to work on, putting it towards, like we were saying, a website, or going to an exciting conference, or becoming an instructor for something. I just thought that was a really good point.
Well, so I'm going to shift back to something that a word that you said, Dara, anxiety.
Absolutely.
So the source of anxiety for an individual can come from multiple places. One of those is, I don't have enough money, meaning I don't have enough according to my definition of what is enough for me. Yeah. But if you get more money and you immediately start spending it on the next thing, and you still don't have your emergency fund, you still don't have control over your budget, the anxiety continues, even though you're now making more money. When you've got an emergency fund set aside, kind of got an idea, I'm living within my budget, that can give you better sleep, better health, and now you're thinking more clearly about what you're doing and what you could be doing. So that need to build up that cushion and maintain control can keep your money anxiety lower, and pay off in many ways.
I do have another question for you. So this is going more towards credit, because I know it's important to build your credit. Some people are very anti-credit cards and think that they're a horrible thing. Some people say, oh, credit's great if you are getting a high, cashback rate or rewards. It's absolutely worth it, and it's good to have that money as a cushion, as long as you're not using it and you're paying it off every month. What are your thoughts on credit cards for young people, especially people that aren't great with money and great with budgeting, if they don't typically have the wisdom to actually only spend within their means with a card?
So having a good credit score will be important in your life. It may not be today, but it will be in the future. So having a credit card and using it properly in order to build up some credit history and have a high credit score is really important. You really can go online and find out a lot about how to get a good credit score, and should I have more of a credit line available, less of a credit line. There's different things you can do to affect your credit score. But if you're having trouble by spending too much money, then what you do with your credit card that you need to have in order to get a good credit score is just spend certain things on there that you normally pay for anyway, like, I don't know, gas in your car. I'm going to get this card. I'm just going to put the gas in my car on the card and pay that off every month. Don't jump in, at 90% of your budget is all going on the credit card and then you're spending too much. Just pick one or two things, put that on the card, pay it off, do that consistently, and then take a little time here and there to educate yourself about your credit score and what can affect that.
And if a lady is flirting with you at a bar trying to make you buy drinks because she's on a budget, don't use a credit card for that purpose.
Don't fall for it.
Yeah, okay.
Dara's a siren over here causing all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of getting a credit card as soon as I was 18 years old, and I'm not going to say the name of the bank, but they made the mistake of giving an 18, 19-year-old a $2,500 limit credit card, and I knew that if you used a credit card, you had to pay it back. I knew that much, but I also was like, oh well, I don't have money in my account. I just put it on the credit card, pay it back later. And had that credit card, another store credit card. So at under 20 years old, I was about $3,000 in debt. And finally, worked. I was a server all through college, and so I worked and paid it all off, and then just closed them out because at that point I was so turned off by having a credit card, not because of what the credit card itself was, but because I had to learn how to control that. So now I have like a $300 limit.
There you
Can't
go.
get in any trouble with that one, really.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely establishing, knowing that I'm going to put my gas on this, or I'm only going to buy groceries with this, and mapping out what that actually is, and setting aside that cash immediately when you do make that purchase, so that at the end of the month when the credit card bill comes, you can pay that and it's good to go. Is that some kind of advice that you would give to somebody who's not really great at having a credit card?
Oh yeah, baby steps, right?
Yes.
Take your baby steps with your credit card. Don't get into trouble, and then again, check your credit score, right? Because the reason you have the credit card is to build up a good credit score. Find out what you can do to make your credit score maybe a little bit higher, and kind of work yourself toward that direction.
What are your thoughts on the Dave Ramsey method of don't have a credit card ever? They're horrible because you don't actually need credit. I've heard that from people that have done his Financial Peace University. So
yeah.
What do you think about that, and what that will mean for young people?
Well, all you have to do is drive south on I-65 and look over to the side of the interstate, and you'll see that Dave Ramsey's been very successful in giving this advice. And so, but his advice comes not just one piece at a time, but it all has to go together. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to fit into Ramsey's advice about, pay cash for everything, etc., then yes, learn about it, do everything in your life in that direction, get that support group around you, and that works. right? If you want to take a slightly different path and still have control over your finances and your money, you can do that. But so. Yeah, his advice works. It's great, but you got to take it all together. You can't just say this piece or that piece by itself. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the fire movement. If you want to retire early, then you need to get those people around you and get some support and follow what they're doing to make that work. Same thing with Ramsey and his principles. I mean, they're solid principles, and they work if you work them.
Awesome. All right, so we are getting to the point where we should probably start to wrap up here. So we have a few questions for each of you. First off, what are you cheap about versus what do you splurge on?
Steve, I think that's going to be an easy answer for you.
Gosh, I don't know. The way you said that, I'm trying to think. I can splurge, but I haven't lately because we're still trying to grow our firm as well. But have splurged on golf. Member of a country club, so I guess people that I'm economical on food, I guess, and eating out to a degree, and in groceries and a little bit on other entertainment. But I will spend decent money on a good golf game, I guess, if you will. So that's what I'm passionate about, and that's hopefully that's not my highest value, but I enjoy that, and I'm comfortable with that.
Awesome. What about you, Mel?
Okay, let's see. What am I cheap on? I'm pretty cheap on cars. I think, buy used and drive them a long time. We're now a one-car family, which is something living downtown has allowed us to do.
That's awesome.
So, so maybe I'm cheap on cars. What do I splurge on? I don't know. I don't splurge on much. I would say maybe people look at where I live, living downtown in a condo and go, oh, wow, that's expensive and everything. But I was actually kind of cheap on that too because I bought it at auction. But so it looks like a splurge, but okay, so maybe I splurge on where I live.
You've got great hair. Are you sure you don't splurge on shampoo?
Yeah. Oh no. You know what? I might. But my stylist. No, she might be listening. I shouldn't say anything about her. She's not too expensive.
There you go.
She's great.
That's hilarious.
Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
Yeah. Sure, Dara. Thanks.
So what do you nerd out about in your free time? Because you were saying golf. What about you, Mel?
Oh, what do I nerd out about? I like a lot of different projects. I always nerd out about my plants because I love plants. I'm doing a complete reboot on all my plants this winter. So if anybody wants a blueberry bush or a climbing rose or something,
pick me.
then let's talk after the podcast. But no, right now I'm kind of nerding out on healthy eating. Specifically like the blue zones and how to eat healthy like the oldest people in the world do.
Yeah.
And bread. Have my own sourdough starter and starting to learn how to bake good, healthy bread at home.
Homemade sourdough is so good.
I just love bread in general. Bread is my thing.
But me too. But I want it to be healthy. So
right.
And that requires I can't just go to the store and buy it then.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I can nerd out and make it at home. And it helps that I have two really good bakers in the family, so I can learn from them.
Awesome. Were there any other things for you, Steve? Yeah.
You seem like a sports guy. Basketball, golf.
Yeah, a lot of sports, and we are like a lot of y'all in the creative industry. I mean, we're very passionate about our firm. I'm probably putting in 70 hours a week on that, and that's usually you want to balance, but I'm okay with an unbalanced lifestyle at certain points in your life. So I'm passionate about this, to be honest with you, in golf. So those two extreme sports have taken a little bit of a background at this point, but. So I'm passionate about spreadsheets and accounting and taxes and that kind of thing. So.
But thank goodness for people like you.
Honestly,
Yeah.
So what does your day-to-day look like? Like, do you have a set routine that you kind of follow, and it's just like a formula that gets you through?
Wow. Steve, I would say our life changed last year when we got a virtual assistant. So that was fantastic. But we try to get started, about 8:30 in the morning. And but there's really not a limit on when we cut off. If a client wants to meet at 6 o'clock at night, we're happy to do that, or phone calls. We've done Saturday meetings. We have clients out of town and we'll travel and we'll meet with them, whatever the hours are. But we're finally getting to where we have the ability to put a few more limits on our time. But overall, if you're living a balanced life, it's okay to work some at night or whatever, because you'll make it up somewhere else.
Do you have any sort of personal routines, whether it's like a morning routine or a bedtime routine or anything, or you just kind of go with the flow?
Okay. My routine is a little bit more of a morning routine, and I like to run, so I'll try to run in the morning. In the winter, it's a little bit harder because I'm trying to run outside when I can. I can run in the building. But so I like to run, and I try to get to bed at a certain time every night that's not too late. But in the mornings, I've got a little routine, get up, get a run in, do a little reading, same healthy breakfast, make the coffee, all that. Steve, you got a routine?
I don't have a routine, so I need to listen to your podcast to develop a routine, and that is critical. And kind of your suggestion, I mean, it's to be more healthy. I need to get more healthy, and establishing a routine will help in that regard, and just have more energy. So I need to. So thanks for the question. I don't, and need to develop. As many of us do, you go through cycles in life where you have a good routine, but at this point in my life, I don't have it's get up early and start working, and work late and do it again.
Right.
Yeah.
That's still a routine.
Yeah, it is.
With building your firm and having your personal life and doing the things that you want to be cheap or splurge on and things like that, how do you keep yourself balanced?
Well, let's see. I have a wife, so that helps me keep balanced, right? I've got somebody in my life who I share a lot of things with, and so there's a routine for both of us to keep balanced. Division of labor, right? I'm going to do this, she's going to do that, and so that's very, very helpful. I've always been interested in a balanced lifestyle. So even when I've started companies and working hard, I've got certain things set aside that help me stay balanced in the midst of working hard and thinking about that business all the time. So, I would say I've got, certain routines and big rocks in my day that are there no matter what. And so that's helped me stay balanced. But I'm pretty clued into it.
What are some examples of those?
Oh, the things that are kind of the big rocks, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's see. Physical exercise, really, really important. Had a therapist about a year ago say that if you'll get your heart rate up 45 minutes a day, 5 times a week, you'll never need any prescription medicine for anxiety. Mm-hmm. That's my words, but basically that's what he told me. So exercise is really important to your mental health and emotional health. For me, it's a routine also of having quiet time to pray and read my Bible, being in a community of people around me of faith. That's also part of Blue Zone living, is to have the right tribe and have a community of faith. Eating healthy foods. My wife really helps in that regard. She pays a lot of attention to that for us. So I'm trying to hit it on all those spokes in the wheel of life, keeping all those things going.
Absolutely. And what about you, Steve? How do you keep balanced?
Again, this is a good therapy session for me. I realize I need to get need to live a more balanced life, to be honest with you. And I think Mel is helping me. And I'm not married, so I don't have as much of an accountability partner. And at the firm, we're starting to use a coach. It's going to be more of a business coach, but also personal, because obviously the business and the personal should go hand in hand. So that accountability partner, I think, is absolutely critical, whether it's business related or personal related or both. So I'm looking forward to the benefits of that and living a more balanced life. You can bring us back in a couple of years, and I'll tell you about my balanced life at that point.
Perfect.
Well, to Steve's credit, he is really close with his family, and that does help bring some structure to his life. So that's good.
All right, and so our final question that we're asking everybody is, who is your favorite band or your favorite artist?
Wow, that's funny you asked, because just this weekend I did something I haven't done in many years, and my wife and I have an immense love of music, almost all genres and decades, and so we spent probably 3 to 3.5 hours on Saturday while we were working, watching Led Zeppelin.
Nice.
On YouTube. And we both had like Wikipedia up, and we're reading about the history of these songs and stuff, and I fell in love with Led Zeppelin all over again this weekend.
Nice.
It's hard not to mention some other names. I have to put in a favorable opinion on Muse as well.
Muse is really good, yeah. Totally underrated.
Gosh, I would say I'll give you a somewhat different extreme, I guess, than Led. I like Led Zeppelin. Lauren Daigle and Third Day, anybody with a soulful voice, I guess.
Yes.
And both of those groups or musicians certainly have a soulful voice. So I would say those two.
Yeah, Lauren Daigle's awesome. So thank you so much. We were so happy to have you guys on today and learn more about your tips for young people in creative industries and all of that.
Well, thank you. It's been awesome.